in. I would entertain that. Okay, and is there a second? Any discussion? Okay, so we call the vote. Everybody in favor, please say aye or raise their hand or both. No objections or, okay, thank you so much. And the second thing that you see in your packet is something that I think that has been of interest to us. As you can see, and I think the members of the commission did get a letter from the mayor thanking us for our service and saying that he will be paying more attention to this commission in the future. But I think also too that you saw that there is a proposed amendment to the ordinance which called us into being. And basically, I think we're here just for information. We are not going to vote on it or anything, but just for people to look over it to see if we have any advisors or recommendation. And as you can see, the commission was originally called into being in the 1940s, and they mentioned that membership coming from the then extant historical organizations in town, which then were just the museum, I think the Gibbs, the College of Charleston, and the South Carolina Historical Society. So the thought was that if we were going to amend the statute for both attendance, for non-attendance, perhaps rolling off, but then we also thought we should expand the pool. Since the 1940s, so many other organizations have been founded in here. So the International African American Museum, Avery was not extant. So as far as I know, that's the proposed changes to that, which I think council and Philip.
I'm not sure if you discussed something else with Jennifer, but I believe you guys would be voting on this. It doesn't have to be final.
Okay.
But you could approve that this in its current form is good, and then if it's not good with somebody else, we can bring it back and vote on it again, et cetera.
Okay, so we can vote as to whether we like the wording or not. And again, it was sent out before, but if people want to look at it again, and motions are always accepted. Dale. And if you do turn on your green light, I think just because we're being recorded.
Yes, sir. I move for adoption as long as we have some discussion.
Okay. Okay, so if we have a second, then we can have some discussion. Okay, so discussion? Dale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm glad to see this, both the addition of institutions to be considered for membership, number one, and number two, an expectation of attendance with consequence. On the first part, I think each one of us could probably name 2 or 3 more institutions, societies, or established groups that go back in history and could and maybe should be considered for membership. And I know it says shall consider. From my point of view, I would suggest that we add something in the sense of the historic militia of Charleston. And I can tell you who they are. We can name, there would be 3 names, or you could simply say the historic militia units of Charleston. I'd ask for that for consideration.
Anyone else have any thoughts or discussion? Angela? It's in history.
But they did separate at some point. And so the question becomes, is it appropriate for the Gibbs Museum to be represented on this committee or on the Arts Commission committee? And that's certainly something for city government to consider. But also, have these institutions been approached? And then I guess my next question, and I'm sorry to be rambling a little bit, is shouldn't the Preservation Society be on it?
It is.
It is? Yeah.
I think what you see underlined are the additions.
The additions. My apologies.
And so I'm unaware if people, I'll answer it, Angela. I am unaware, Angela, if the institutions have been approached or not. I do know that there is, and I'm not sure if anyone from the city knows more than I do, and if they do, pipe up. But so I am not aware of that, Angela. And Wilmot, and
I have several reservations about this proposed ordinance. It is not unlikely that people who are engaged in research, that kind of thing, can be away for extended periods of time. 3 months, 90 days is certainly one of those situations. That would make it impossible for someone who had really good credentials to serve on a commission like this. So I think you need to rethink that 3 consecutive absences without any consideration of why those absences occurred. That was one point. Another point is that, do we want to confuse the commission, History Commission, with various other historical committees, organizations in the city, many of which may have different views on things, and as a body which has a particular purpose, basically to advise City Council on matters of history. I think we should try to free ourselves from entanglements with other organizations. So I have serious reservations about the portions of the proposed ordinance that deal with other groups, organizations, and institutions, and also with the fairly unprofessional requirement that the people who serve on this commission should be banished if they don't show up for 3 meetings.
yeah. If I can respond to that, I think one of the strengths of this commission is its diversity. That's my personal thought, is that we do seem to represent across the spectrum. And I think what the ordinance reads is, they do not necessarily have to be from those institutions, but if looking at the original ordinance, it seemed to be so ignorant of other organizations. To be frank, it seemed to only favor elite white institutions, which were those institutions in town when that ordinance was passed. And since the original ordinance included preservation groups and museums, the thought is to follow the spirit of that original ordinance and to go back to those societies that do have people on them that are aware of historical issues and museum issues. So I think that was the thinking behind that. And again, as the ordinance is reworded and as it was originally, so when I was put on there, I think I was put on there from Avery, and Avery was not originally actually on that. So we are not locked into that. There are 1, 2, 3 people here, and now 4, who are not affiliated with any particular organization. So I think the language is not going to necessarily bind us to it. It's just going to suggest to council that when they do look for people to appoint to this commission, that they consider people from a variety of different institutions.
I understand the wording of it. As I said, I'm concerned about the associations of the commission with other already established groups and their interests.
So is there any other discussion? Dale?
If I may ask, is there an existing list of the institutions that we could just simply refer to, those listed so-and-so shall be considered? Because that's all this is shall be considered by the mayor and council. Is there already a list? We could do away with this list completely.
I would say that it would probably be wise to do away with the list. For example, I'll give you one example. ASALA, Association for the Study of African American Life and History, is not on this list. This is an organization that has existed since the early 20th century nationally, dealing with African American history. And as a result of it, you have omitted an organization that has deep ties to African American history. As a matter of fact, almost original ties to it in terms of establishing it as a discipline.
I see.
And so I would think that, you know, you get into trouble when you start naming organizations, questions of approval and the attitude toward this one or that one. I've had significant differences with the International African American Museum. I don't think, you know, I think it has very serious shortcomings professionally. And I think that, you know, I wonder whether we should be suborning some things that happen in relation to that museum.
Well, that's certainly beyond our
City
province.
Council, I opposed it, and
Right.
before it was established, I picketed and did everything else I could to see to it that it was not established as it was finally established. But the fact is that it still has those serious shortcomings. The other day, I was,
Excuse me, with all due respect, Wilmot, I think
Yeah.
the issue is not necessarily
yeah, so when we
the
start.
shortcomings of one
when we
institution.
Start to confuse the work of the commission with the work of other organizations, I think we're treading on ground for, on grounds for disagreement
Right.
and lots of other
Right. So,
unnecessary conflict.
so as a way forward, I see that if someone wanted to suggest to amend this to not name the particular institutions, but to include language that the city shall consider, you know, choosing members from, you know, the organizations, the cultural, historical, and other relations within. And that way, if they came and go, we would not have a dead institution, or we wouldn't be leaving one out. So if someone wanted to amend it that way, the other issue I think we have, if there's no more discussion, is the thought of attendance. So said, do people want to discuss the idea of attendance? And the only thing I'll say, I think it is rare that we meet every month. We have been for a while. So 3 consecutive meetings would be 3 months, but it's very unusual unless I think, you know, that we actually meet 3 consecutive months. I'm just throwing that out. So that could be 4 months, that could be 5 months. So consecutive meetings does not necessarily cover 3 months. It could, but it doesn't necessarily.
I would say that most people who have demonstrated a serious enough purpose and interest in history to try to become a member of this commission have that kind of commitment, and that they would have the good sense to resign if they were unable to continue their service.
I wish I could agree with you. And again, just as my personal opinion, that bears no greater weight being the chair. There are 13 people on this commission. Is that correct? I think.
We are supposed to have 13 presently. There are 12. Recently, we did reach out to Dr. Nick Butler and Mr. Robert Rosen, who both declined continuing to serve on the commission. So at present, we have 10 total, if I'm not mistaken.
And I will say, within the history of the majority of the people here, there have been 12 or 13, and you see how we struggle. So with all due respect, Wilmot, I agree with you. I wish people would do that, but you know, the fact that we have to struggle so often to get a quorum. So I mean, I think there's free to change the language. You could change it to X number versus another number if you feel strongly about it. But I think to go forward, since we are going to vote for it, you know, if someone wants to put a resolution forward, since we are still discussing it, Dale.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to acknowledge what the doctor says, there are people, professionals especially, who have purpose away from Charleston, and it may be for extended periods. So I would propose, and Mr. Clapper, if you're ready to hear this, to insert in that last sentence, which is now underlined, that says any member who has more than 3 consecutive absences from scheduled meetings without written request or exception being approved by the chairman shall be subject to automatic removal. In other words, the individual can apply to the chairman for an exception to allow him or her to continue whatever for a period to miss 3, but then the chairman has the discretion to accept it or reject it.
Are you willing to give a chairperson that much incredible
Well,
power?
I would go to the clerk of council then.
Yeah, so no, that's fine. And so then I think it's up to this committee to decide, what kind of wording we want to put forward. I don't think we necessarily have to give exact wording if we can, since this is an advisory thing, to the city. So it seems to me that what the consensus so far in the discussion is that we would like to remove the names of specific organizations, put in a term that the city shall consider for staff from, among the city's cultural, historical, and other relevant organizations. And that we also change the wording that there would be, instead of 3 consecutive absences automatically being subject to automatic removal, but those with the discretion of either, and I'll defer to y'all, the chairperson. I would suggest the chairperson rather than the clerk of council, not because I'm power hungry and I'm certainly not going to be here all the time, but the chairperson is going to be more familiar with that, and the clerk of council has probably got a lot more things to do. So if someone would say, I put that, what you just said forward as a motion, maybe, and again, I'm just trying to get things expediently done because I know the public's here wanting to, another item on the discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I object to the idea of coercion.
Of-
I object to the idea of coercion. There may be many reasons why people are unable to, even unwilling to. We've got a case in Texas now, people breaking quorum because they don't want to be there for a particular reason. And it's a good reason as far as I'm concerned. But that's not, let's be adult about this. People who don't want to be on the commission can be asked to resign if they show no interest in the commission's work consistently. They may have simply forgotten that they were members of it. I ran into a guy who was on the commission at a certain point recently, and asked him whether he was still on the commission. He was unclear about whether or not his appointment was still valid.
I mean, I do think
So
Philip
I
does
think-
send out the list to all current members.
So there are many different reasons why people may or may not show
Right.
up. And I object professionally because you don't get on this commission by being a novice in history. You're
Yeah.
on there because you
Mick-
have some background and expertise.
Mickey?
And you do it because you're serving the community, mainly because we don't get any perks at all. At least I don't.
Ah.
And so I think it's probably
So
wise that if we want to attract people, we don't include language that is in any way coercive
and do you think
to one of the
being,
members. It's
Mick-
insulting. Frankly, it's
Mickey?
insulting.
I would just like to say, well, first of all, we have some outstanding members, but the problem is they never come. And
Why?
I would say,
Why don't?
well, just a minute. For the last, I would say 5 or 6 meetings, there have only been the 5 of us. So if one person, I mean, we changed our plans to go out of town so I could be here. Because I knew if I wasn't, we probably wouldn't have a quorum. And this is no way to run a professional organization. And so if these people cannot change their plans, I mean, we give them 3 times to miss. And now the motion is on the floor that if they speak to our head man here, and he thinks they have a valid excuse, then they can still remain on the board. But everyone has to try that. It's a responsibility to be given to be on one of these committees. And if you can't attend, then you probably should not be on the committee. So I would like to move what the chair said, if we can go on and do that, but he has to repeat it. I can't repeat it.
So then we have a motion before us to ask the city to amend the language to the proposed change to the ordinance to not name specific organizations, but to be more general, and then to change the service requirements to 3, and unless the absences are excused in writing by the chairperson, then 3 sequential absences would immediately mean removal from the committee.
Mr. Chairman, I would suggest that we say unexplained.
Right, again, that's fine, that's fine. I think,
If a
because we're not talking about,
Yeah,
we're not talking about,
That's
and we're not using specific language here.
10 because of
Right, right,
good reason.
right.
That's,
So I think we've made a motion on top of a motion, and as it's obvious, parliamentary procedure is not my strong suit.
I believe-
But,
people
so,
people contribute to the work
Right.
of this commission,
right,
even when they're not in attendance. Point in question, Dr. Butler, and his work on the burial ground.
yeah, yeah. So, shall we call that for a vote? Philip, do we need?
Yeah, I think
a
we
second?
had,
We need a second?
we had Dale and Peg, motion earlier, to approve following discussion.
Shing.
If you want to withdraw the motion, then we can have the new motion to approve the current thing. Have too many people with green lights
Okay.
on that do-
Oh, I would either withdraw or ask for the amendment to be taken up.
Then we
Mr.
can
Chairman.
do it with the amendment if Peg agrees.
Do you agree to that, Peg, to proceed with the amendment since you seconded it? Yep. Okay, so,
Yes.
thank you, Peg. So can we call the question now, Philip? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so remember what I just proposed. So all in favor, aye, raise your hands, yes, or, so, and Wilmot, are you an abstention or negation? I'm sorry, I just can't tell. Okay, an abstain. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and an abstention. So.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. So if you could pass that information on to the city, again, we would appreciate it. And we do appreciate the city's attention to us, and the work that we do. And as I think you saw in your last, in the note from the mayor that he plans to join us for the October meeting, I think should there be one.
Mr. Chair,
Sure, and if you turn your light on.
did, but didn't stay. I think it's a privilege to be asked to be on this commission. I felt very privileged when I was asked. And I think people ought to take that in consideration. I'm glad the vote went the way it did. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Peg. So, and thank you all for your patience. So I think the next item on the agenda is item D. Protect and respect the bodies under the YWCA presentation, discussion, and recommendations. And it was recommended, as it noted there, by Wilmot Frazier. And so then I do know that we have people here who can speak on it. Does the commission feel like it needs information as to what we are discussing? I attended the meeting to the public the other night. Wilmot was there, many of the people here as well too. If the commissioners need to be brought up to speed as to what we are discussing before we discuss, or is everyone familiar with what we are discussing? I see a few puzzled looks. Mickey?
I'm just not quite sure what we're hearing all this for, whereas it's not, I mean, we don't get to vote on whether.
Right. I mean, so actually, right. So, and actually Mickey has more seniority on this committee than anyone else. She remembers when it had a budget, which is, I think, pre-21st century. But so I do think if if you can recall, Mickey, this commission has been called on in the past by other administrations to give a suggestion. And I'm assuming, when there was wording to be put up for Calhoun, whether the Calhoun statue would be loaned to the Los Angeles Museum, we were asked, as a body we only looked at a little bit of and I don't know, Philip, if you can put up the enabling legislation that originally put us up there. But and I am not a lawyer, but I will parse the language a little bit. I actually did ask to look at the initial legislation or ordinance that called us into being. The city council finds and declares that the city of Charleston has a rich historical heritage which should be protected and preserved. And that it is of public interest that historical markers and plaques be regulated under the police power of the city in order to maintain, protect, and promote historical accuracy, preservation for the well-being and welfare of the citizens, residents, and visitors of the city. As I read that is, the one part being that the city declares that it does have rich historical heritage. Two, that it should be protected. One of the things we can do is, and if we look down on D, and I'm not sure if you can read that, the powers, the commission shall act as an advisory board in promoting the collection and preservation of historical data, publicizing and commemorating persons, deeds, events, and things of historical interest through publication, erection of monuments, markers, and the great other word, otherwise.
And these are in the
uh,
back of your packets if you'd like to look at it.
Oh,
the very
so
last
Philip did
page.
include them in your packets. Thank you. So
Here.
again, it's not, so again, I think, I'm not an attorney, but I know we have acted in the past, in an advisory capacity and whether our advice is taken or not, that's the moot point.
Okay.
So I think that's why we're here. And we do, so again, we do have people here who can speak to the, we have representatives from the College of Charleston. We have representatives from the preservation community. We have representatives from the community themselves. So if we are aware of the issue in front of us, it is my assumption that what we can do is that we can advise the city, on whatever we want. And so then do we want advice from people? Would we like a brief presentation from the college? Would we like a brief presentation from a preservation group? And then would we like the public to be able to speak as well before we discuss anything else?
Mr. Chair, I have a special interest in this group. I attended its first meeting and was, of course, struck by the situation we were in, where a historic graveyard that had been a city-owned facility was being, again, paved over, or not paved over, but in this case, unearthed with thousands of bodies in it. I felt it was an emergency situation. And because of that, and I also felt that the city had a great deal of responsibility since it was the owner in perpetuity of that consecrated ground. And that's why I asked the members of the group if they wanted to approach the History Commission for its recommendation on what the city should do, or what posture the city should adopt regarding this historic piece of ground. As you pointed out, there was a large meeting of over 100 people a couple of nights ago at College of Charleston regarding this subject, and this morning's paper front paged the discussion there. It did not mention that there would be a follow-up at City Council, which I brought to the public attention at that meeting. So I'm hoping that the commission will decide to hear presentations from the members of that group. And without any further ado, I would like to bring them forward so that we can get that, hear what they have to say. They've submitted a significant amount of data with their petition to us for a statement on this issue. And I hope you will read, the members of the commission will read this information and take it as seriously as it deserves to be taken. This is a city that says it's proud of its history. I don't know if it in fact is true, if it is abandoning cemeteries that it set up many, many years ago. But of course, the people in those cemeteries were not considered people, many of them, African Americans, enslaved Africans, et cetera. Want to move this matter forward on
Thought you were very
on the committee's
eloquent.
agenda.
I
Thank
thought you were very eloquent the other night, Wilmot. So I guess we'll take that as we will go forward. Many people were extremely eloquent. I thought maybe just we could proceed in the same order that we did at the public meeting on Monday. And, you know, we have no time requirements per se, except that we all have other lives in this. So I will ask the people that do come up and present to just try to be as brief as possible, since apparently the committee has read the paper, is aware of a lot that's going on. And so then, showing no favoritism, the College of Charleston presented first on Monday. So if we'll just start following that order as well too. So if there's someone from the College of Charleston who wants to present, we do have a microphone right there. And we just ask that you come up and identify yourself, state your name, et cetera. And then the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. We don't necessarily have a formal presentation. We are going through the process of trying to build a residence hall, and we're here to listen. We were invited by the chair, and Mr. Frazier pointed out that this meeting was today, and so we're here to listen what folks have to say.
Okay, well,
And
thank
if
you.
we can get your names when you come up to the mic as well.
Paul Patrick, Patrick.
And so then, before we go to the public, just the public, is there anybody from a?
Mr. Chairman,
Yep.
Mr. Hackett, would you, your position at the college?
Chief of Staff for President Xi.
Senior staff for the president.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
So is there an organization that would like to speak first, and then we'll have members of the public?
Hello, I'm Paul Garbarini. I am a student at the college, and I work at the Avery Research Center for African American History and Culture. Anyone who was at that meeting the other night might remember a student standing up and leading the chant, "We don't want this." We don't. The desecration of those graves is intolerable. Rest in peace does not expire. Some of those bones are from people who got off the ship directly from Africa. They didn't survive, and they're buried there. Disturbing those souls is unspeakable. Please have the city recommend to the college that they reconsider that location with empathy. There's cultural disturbances that there's nothing in their presentation that says, besides, yeah, we will exhume them and take care of them and put up a marker. It doesn't say anything about the cultural significance or any ceremonies that should be involved in that, or whether or not it couldn't just be a large site, one of the largest sites of African American burials in the country, memorialized as such, like the one in New York City. Please consider advising the college to go somewhere else. Thanks.
And thanks, Paul. Do you speak for yourself, or are you speaking for Avery?
I cannot speak for Avery.
So I know that they're representatives of the Preservation Society, and if they're representatives of Historic Charleston as well first, I thought, again, we would just do institutions first and then do the public, if that's okay with y'all.
Hello, I think I am organization and public. I am Dr. Tanya Matthews, President and CEO of the International African American Museum, presenting as a relentlessly curious member of the historical storytelling ecosystem. Here in Charleston, I want to acknowledge that I am as much a come yet to this conversation as I am to the community. And I want to note that about a month ago, there was a group that made a similar presentation to the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. The name changes to make them aware of this emerging issue downtown related to the College of Charleston student housing project and former city-owned public burial site on Cumming Street that we're talking about. Now, since then, from that small group, community awareness has increased dramatically, with more than 100 people attending public meetings held on campus this past Monday. As someone who strives to get people to come to a table to talk about history, I was impressed with that number. For almost 2 hours, the college project team listened and took questions from local experts, concerned citizens, longtime residents, and folks who were just interested because they didn't know. Many questions are still left to be answered, and there are some concerns remaining to be unaddressed. As I've mentioned, folks are estimating more than 4,000 burials. Sometimes that number is lower, sometimes it's higher. Enslaved Africans, children, other poor people who were unable to claim traditional burial sites. So this has long been a site of significance, historical significance, despite not being well known. And in our world and in our field, we've seen decent care of such sites. A few good examples are out there as well. But Charleston is poised to potentially do something great, given all of the level of interest and conversation that is now being held. And with all due respect to the acknowledge around New York, I think we may actually be poised to be even far more significant than that space if we take a little bit of time. I think it's just becoming clear that folks are very curious and very interested and would like to learn more about this important history and ask more questions. And I think that a commission such as this can appreciate that level of curiosity. And so I thank you for your time and do encourage you to make more time for conversations like this and help the community have these kinds of conversations and get meaningful answers, meaningful solutions, and meaningful options about how we might move forward. Thank you.
Thank you for that very positive presentation.
Members of the commission, thank you, Dr. Matthews, and thank you for the college for being open with listening ears. I'm Brian Turner. I'm the president and CEO of the Preservation Society of Charleston, and appreciating the Commission on History's role in this and advising the city. I want to talk just specifically about some of the reasons we do believe the city should be very much involved in this process and collectively work on this really important site. As history, of course, and knowledge is the foundation of good policy and planning. And I think I just want to acknowledge at the outset that with this site, there is not a documented history. We are learning more and more every day. I've put in your packet this evening some information that we've been able to pull together as staff at the Preservation Society. I think that this information is evolving, but it's a start for understanding, and I want to make 3 essential points. One, about the role of the city in operating the cemetery historically. 2, about the national significance of the site. And then 3, about and I think very importantly, the city's role in the relocation process that's assigned by state law. So first, as Mr. Frazier pointed out, this was a city-operated burial ground. There was ordinances, this is well documented in the history. The city accepted funding for people to be buried there. And in that sense, we believe that the city has an important trustee role moving forward over the burials there. So it's an important rationale, I think, for the city's continued engagement. Second, just stressing the national significance, and this is information that's coming out as we look at the only really comparative urban cemetery dating to the 18th century nationally. The really most prominent reference point is the African Burial Ground in Manhattan, which has been a designated National Historic Landmark. It's a designated national monument. It's been determined through a very thorough process of review by the National Park Service as having that level of significance to tell the stories of particularly enslaved Africans in that era of time, which virtually, and the nomination points out that virtually no other site in the country can do that. What we're learning is that this is another site, and that documentation about Manhattan may be out of date because we have something in Charleston that's comparable. And so before we remove what's there, I think it's really important that we take that significance into consideration, do a really thorough evaluation. And then last, I put together a memo about a basic primer on the law of burials in South Carolina. And this is a point that I think we really need greater awareness to, which is under South Carolina state law, the city has the discretionary approval of a removal process. And so the city has to make a necessary and expedient finding. This is sort of outlined in the memo. In the process of making that finding, it should take concerns from the community into account. There's really no regulations. There's no case law. There's nothing really interpreting exactly how that process could roll out. I do think that the commission could have an important role in advising the city on exactly how it sees that approval authority happening. I think that there is some discretion as far as how the city manages that vis-a-vis the college's application and request, and open to further dialogue on that. That's what I wanted to prepare to you. Thank you for hearing the community. Thank you for your consideration of this issue.
Thank you, Brian. And anyone else can come up, but I'll just say, just for the sake of transparency, I am on the board of the Preservation Society, but the committee that I had is not the one that's in charge of preservation. It is the one that's in charge of membership and raising money and stuff. But I just want it to be known that I am, like I said, a board member of the Preservation Society, but I'm also an alumnus of the college as well, too. So. Would anyone else now care to speak? And if you just come forward and identify yourself, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Lachey Oubre, and I'm with Anson Street African Burial Ground Project. I would first like to say that Anson Street Burial Ground Project has just returned from Portugal, Faro, and Lisbon, where we were asked to present the Anson Street Burial Ground Project to the Society of Africanist Archaeologists, and to return home and have to discuss the same concerns that we discussed in Portugal with people from around the world is really disheartening. In Portugal, there were 158 ancestors that we went to learn about and honor. And then we come home and we have to do the same with 4,500. This topic about the burial ground is having now international significance in science, culture, and history. So I'm hoping that we as Charleston are paying attention to what the world is about to pay attention to. The estimates based on research from historians like the Honorable Dr. Nick Butler from the Charleston County Public Library are close to being accurate. There are very few comparable projects the college can use to base a process for excavation and reinterment. This is a serious concern. But it's not completely without precedent. Here in Charleston, the city worked with our group, Anson Street African Burial Ground Project, to conduct research, including in-depth DNA analysis on the remains of the 36 ancestors discovered at the Gilliard Center. The college has not committed to DNA analysis, and this is also another concern. We as Charlestonians have got to do better than what we're doing. We as a community has got to do better than what we're doing. And the College of Charleston has got to do better than what it's doing for Charleston and its community.
Anyone else care to speak?
Norm Dickerson. I feel for the community that's going through this, and some people are in the meeting on Monday. There was a lot of emotion, and it was painful to watch. It was painful to watch the people in my community feel so hurt and so injured by what's happening here. And I even felt for the developers. I see what they're trying to do. It makes sense. It's right there. It's a good location. So there are both sides here. There are several options that can happen. There were some other areas that were brought up on Monday night by some of the residents that could be available for the project team to build their dormitories. Or so they could not use that property that they paid $75 million for, and we could turn it into something else. Or they can continue to develop, but I know the community, and I've heard the people here, there's nothing in the budget for forensic testing. Y'all need to do that. There's nothing in the budget for the internment of the people that we get out of there. It looks as if it's going to happen, then there needs to be something in the budget for forensic testing. I think the community would like to see that. So it's put in a database. So these unknown people, if anyone is interested, can be linked to their family. If that's done, I think the community would like that better than the way that so far it's looking. And right now, there's no credible plan for internment of these people, the land it's going to go to, and all of that. If that's put in the budget, I think there may be a way for everyone to get some of what they want. I do like the idea that the team has about having some kind of memorial there in the area. I think with some community involvement, that would be helpful. So I'm hoping that either they don't do it and find another location that's suitable, and if they do it, and if if the community can't stop this from happening, that we at least do something along those lines that were discussed the other night. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dickerson. Would anyone else like to speak?
My name is Millicent Brown, a lifelong citizen of Charleston. I would just like to share with the commission that in addition to the consternation and grievance that you're hearing about tonight, there is an additional concern about the way in which the College of Charleston has timed this project. When it is that the community even found out that this building project was a proposal, while they have said that there are some changes that could be made and adaptations could be made to their timeline, the point is the property bought in January, the first public meeting that very few people knew about was held in June. And the other night on August the 4th is the first actual time that this entire community even understood what was involved and is planned. And I just like to share with you that that is an affront that this community has got to stop doing, thinking that, well, because we need more residence halls, it does not matter what the community says. I think that, as someone spoke the other night, that we can do better. And it is time for us to do better with more sensitivity, not only because this is an international issue that is going to blow up in this city's face when it is found out the unimaginable plans as well as the way it was conducted. And I specifically go back to the fact that if the respect that the college says it wants to show for the remains. I don't think you make plans for something and have a deadline and you bring the public in, some of the public, in August when you intend to start digging in October. It says that you had no actual respect for the community because you're moving so quickly. You haven't even had full discussion from all sides about the issue. So I add to the importance of the site, I also add the insult that we feel because this does not show respect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Brown. Anyone else?
Yeah, how you doing? My name is James Newhart. I'm the director of the Center for Historical Landscapes at the College of Charleston, and I'm a registered professional archaeologist. I'm speaking on my behalf as a professional archaeologist, not on behalf of the college. I want to make that clear. But I urge the commission to exert all its power and influence on civic agencies and the university to encourage due diligence and engagement with stakeholders to ensure that the historical evidence and the persons interred are protected and given their due respect. At the meeting on Monday, there was a lot of things that were said that we don't know. Here's what we do know. In the late 18th and early 19th century, the people who built this city and this nation, living and dying in anonymity, were laid to rest here in this space. As early as 1827, dwellings were constructed in this space, many of which were used from that time forward into the early 20th century. These facts, the YWCA structure notwithstanding, represent a critical period of Charleston's and the nation's history. The current GPR evidence, which has been conducted, suggests a thick layer of material described oftentimes as debris. Archaeologists call that material remains. This is a complex site, in other words, that is potentially rich for uncovering critical information about our past. We have opportunity to give personhood to those who lived and died in anonymity. It requires engagement with community. Most importantly, it requires collaboration with stakeholders, including the community and other interested parties. And it takes time to develop a plan that reflects the needs and interests of the community. This is also important for the college, for the university to get right. And it's important for the city to get it right, as has been noted. This is an international incident. I mean, this is a huge scale potentially. The need for the project is beds. The university needs to stay competitive in a market where the demographic cliff for college-age individuals is declining. They need to keep their enrollments up. It's a constricting market. If done right, with input and collaboration and the goodwill of the community in line with the core values of the university of itself, this is a win across the board. If done incorrectly, I fear that the public relations blowback for the university will be such that they will not need the beds that they're trying to build.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Good afternoon. My name is Reverend Patricia Alima, and I'm a citizen of Charleston. My name
Thank you.
is Reverend Patricia Alima, and I'm a member of Macedon AME Church. I'm a citizen of Charleston. And my thought of what I've heard thus far, I just heard about it, the moving of the grave site and building of whatever project they have, but the thought came, okay, so where did they think it through as to where you're going to put the bodies, that the remains that's left? Did they have a plan for that? Okay, because I mean, it's emotional and people feel, like you said, the feelings of it all, it's like, it's bizarre almost. And so my thought was, okay, so where are they gonna place it? How are you gonna say, well, this person relative was there and that person relative was there? You have to do like the DNAs and stuff like that. So I don't know whether that they had that in mind or they were thinking after they've spent all this money, gonna bill it, and then they know that the graves are there and how they're gonna provide for that and putting these people, the relative and different ones in perspective places as to replacing where you're gonna put the graveyard sites. I just know whether they thought of it or not. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. And if someone else wants to speak?
Good afternoon, Jerome Harris. I am the co-chair of the Human Affairs and Racial Conciliation Commission. The Protect and Respect Coalition presented at our last meeting in July, raising some questions and concerns about the project. Members of the commission thought it appropriate that this body take up discussions and take the lead. I am speaking on behalf of the commission, indicating that we are available to be your partners. We too are advisory. The nature of these issues that are coming up represent contention. Our responsibility is bringing about conciliation, it's not reconciliation, creating something new and a new relationship between the community, the anchor institution that's represented by the College of Charleston, and as has been discussed, the way in which the world sees Charleston. You have an advisory role, we have an advisory role. I stand here to let you know that we are prepared and open to working with you to develop the kind of recommendations that needs to go forward to the city.
Thank you, sir. And if I can ask you, have y'all put forth any resolution to the city yet? It's
Again, fact finding, the questions came to the fore. As mentioned, the first meeting that we became aware of the project was in June, actually had really no substance. History and culture is one of the 7 pillars that we address, but this particular situation only became known to us. So we're learning as everybody else is, and again, trying to figure out how to use our role appropriately advising this community, the decision makers of the city.
Yeah, well, thank you. Any other speakers? Speak now or forever. Well, not forever, hold your peace. At least until the next meeting, at least until the next meeting. So guys, it's back on us. I want to thank you all for being here and for being as passionate and as polite as y'all have been. So thank you for that. Just again, for the sake of discussion, I think we have a variety of ways that we can do. We can, there's another city commission that again is studying this. I think we have been pointed out that there is a role that the city can play in this, and I'm suggesting possibly that since we are a city commission, that if it would help us with discussion of just talk about what we can suggest to the city instead of, in its purview and in its role in this, just to guide discussion. But enough of my voice, and now yours, Angela, and green light.
So just for clarification, because the Gibbs has been involved with the memorial at Anson Street on the Gilliard property. If I'm not mistaken, that was discovered by surprise, correct? There was no documentation for that gravesite. And yet, extreme efforts, I believe, were taken. Oh, I'm sorry. Were taken to exhume the bodies and to do the work to discover first age and sex. And now the work is continuing, hopefully, with DNA studies, correct? And regional origin, okay. So this was a surprise. Nobody knew that it was there. No? Millicent, you're wrong? Okay. It's documented, but when they started the construction, I'm sorry. Well, do clarify then, because the construction people were not aware?
I think the confusion is, I think Angela's first referring to the Anson Street site of it being discovered and with no knowledge of it being there, but then great documentation done after the fact. And Angela, I do think people are hearing.
Construction had started and they discovered the bodies, which then caused some delay to the Gilliard being redone. Okay, so I just wanted to get that clear because first of all, nobody should be surprised in terms of this particular site because the documentation is significant. Okay, just wanted that clarification.
Thank the participants in the group for their presentations this afternoon. And simply want to mention that I think it is a responsibility of the city because of the legal responsibility it took when it established those the cemeteries. Cemeteries are established in perpetuity, not for a limited period of time. And as a result of it, the city still bears some responsibility. I'm concerned about the continued buying and selling of the property, including the people in it. To me, that represents a kind of continuation of enslavement in one way or another, because these people were deprived of their birthright when they lived, and now that they're dead, they're still being deprived of their birthright. Raises a lot of questions about reparations, what should be done to compensate people for this kind of mistreatment. I think that I'm happy that the group made its presentation. I hope it has a statement that it wishes the commission to adopt. I would be happy to support that statement. Thank you.
Mickey.
Just a matter of clarification to either the college or the Preservation Society. What is happening with the College Lodge? Is that not being torn down and that property becoming available? And there's no talk of putting the dorm there?
The College Lodge site, as you can imagine, is significantly smaller than the 2 acres that this site has. Part of the economics of this project is for student housing to work in a way that's affordable for students. You need certain density, and the height requirements on the lodge site are such that the most we would be able to get, don't hold me to it, I want to say it was like 270 something beds. This project could be as many as 1,000 beds.
Thank you.
Angela.
If you could stay right where you are, just, again, this is just a question. What is the relationship, and I apologize for not knowing this, what is the relationship between the College of Charleston and the City of Charleston? Does the College of what government funds does the College of Charleston receive, and are any of them city funds?
They're not municipal, no ma'am. I say that there may be some minor accommodation taxes that come through as a result of the TD Arena exceeding I think it's 4,000 seat venue. But I mean, by and large, our public funding is derived from the state, and then obviously federal research funding. But there's not, for example, like Trident Tech, they have a millage of local property tax. State universities do not receive that.
Okay, thank you.
One more question. Have there been any studies done on the traffic situation in that area, bringing 1,000 more students at the college?
So
I mean, that sounds ginormous.
There's no parking in that area. And so all of that will be done as part of the design development. We're very, very early on in design development.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Haggard? Is there another question? Was any thought given to utilizing the garage that was condemned at the corner of St. Philip and?
Yes, sir. We've studied all those options.
I see, thank you. Mhm. Was there something in particular wrong with that site?
For as much as we need beds, we also need parking. And so trying to balance the needs of both parking and beds. And so that site, right now, we have it to continue to be used as parking.
No combination of parking and dormitory spaces?
Certainly, we explored mixed use on both sites. And this is what we feel is the right plan for us at this point in time.
All right, thank you.
One more. I apologize. They just come to me. The college knew that the burial site was there when they bought the.
We were aware of this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I guess I want to kind of start at the back end of this, and we should all realize that even if the College of Charleston's interest in this site disappears today or tomorrow, the questions are still with us. We've recognized a fact of Charleston history. It's a resource for study, and it's a time for respect for the individual and the many, many people who have lost their lives and at least till now have not been recognized properly, in my opinion. So the questions will still be here for Charleston. The opportunity to strengthen our understanding of the 17th and 18th century, Charleston, especially the arriving enslaved population, is enormous. The opportunity to study that from both a social and a genetics point of view, as well as archaeological approach. And I think that this commission at this point does not have enough information to help design a resolution, whether it be for the College of Charleston's interest and plans, or whether it be for the future of this property. But I think those plans and options could be developed. And I must add, though, at this point, I'm very disappointed that the College of Charleston had no more of a presentation for us. They knew they were being asked to make a presentation for this commission's consideration. There's nothing saying we were all at that event of a couple of days ago. And as I quickly look over, Mr. Chairman, the documentation, I don't see anything here from the College of Charleston. And I may be missing something in the way of a proposal or a summary, but I don't see it. Correct me if I'm wrong. If there were plans drawn up, something in detail, and I'm talking about a plan to resolve this in an amicable way, as well as something that benefits the college and resolves or relieves the concerns of these individuals and ourselves, we don't have it. But if there were such a plan, this commission would be ideally situated to study it and make comment on it and advise the city council as we should do. But at this point, I don't know that we can advise. If there's an up or down vote, I'm prepared to take it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
One thing I can say to that is that I do remember Paul Patrick saying at the beginning that I do think that if you do want a presentation, I know Paul has a skill that he probably can. If you would like him to make a few minutes of a presentation as well. But again, I don't think they should be faulted for not having a presentation. I think, I think we discussed for people there too. So if you would like the college to make a presentation, that's just one point of your discussion, I understand.
So you're suggesting that they do that now or at some other time?
No, again, with, the same kind of respect of time that other people did, if
I'm sorry, I would welcome that.
Do you feel? I know we keep getting you up and down, but it's good exercise.
We were contacted by the chair, I think maybe at the end of last week, earlier this week. Didn't know that that was something that the committee would have wanted, and we're happy to come back at your next meeting and bring some things. A little bit of background here. We have been looking at possibilities and opportunities for new residence halls for the entire 10 years that I've been back on staff at the College of Charleston. As I shared, it is the financing of construction in Charleston, as y'all are well aware, is very, very expensive. And there is a balance between enough density in a project that we can actually deliver beds at price points that meet what we are currently offering students for on-campus housing, which is not well below, but certainly below market rates that you're going to find at some of the private student housing developments. And so it's been a while since we have been able to find a project that works. This is one of them. This particular property came before City Council for a PUD under the previous ownership over a year ago, I believe. And then we began the process to acquire it in late of 2024. And as was shared, we closed, I think, late January of this year is when we closed. That began a process for us to go through the very bureaucratic process as a state agency to be able to start a capital project, which involved procuring professional services. To date, we have finally as of really midsummer, the full kind of project team on place. The design team is led locally by Leolio and supported at the national level by Air St. Gross, who has a very large student housing portfolio. Our cultural resources firm is led by Terracon, who is helping work through the kind of subsurface issues that we know we need to work through. And the construction is led locally by Thompson Turner, supported by Rogers, which is a firm that we've done a lot of work with locally. There was a lot of discussion at the meeting on Monday about the timeline. The timeline is, for those of y'all that have worked on construction projects, they are what they are. We start with a timeline. If the timeline needs to be adjusted, it certainly will be adjusted. It is not something that we are duty bound that at the end of October 15th of 2026, then the next item on the Gantt chart will begin. If we're not ready to begin, we don't begin. Almost never do construction timelines ever hold true over the duration of the project, but it's something that we start with. Our stated goal is to be able to have students move into the new residence hall for the August 2028 academic term. That's our goal. We've had capital projects where we've met our goal. We've had plenty of capital projects where we haven't met our goal. But that is currently what the goal is to be able to meet that August 2028 move in for the 28-29 academic year. The parcel that was acquired included it's actually two parcels that were put together. It's 106 Cumming, which is the site of the former Y, as well as 99 St. Philip, which was a condominium complex for the longest time, but was ultimately acquired by the same ownership group. Now there's a single representative, but by the same ownership group that had purchased the Y back in 2014 from the Y at that point in time. And they have held it till we bought it in January. So they held it just a little over 10 years. They converted the condominium complex to student housing. It currently is operating as student housing at 99 St. Philip. So the balance of the developable acreage is a little bit less than 1.5 acres, including the back half of the 99 St. Philip parcel and all of 106 Cumming. So that together is what is going to be the new construction. And so you've seen some conversation of a 1,200 bed residence hall complex. That would be the potential of 1,000 beds. Again, I don't know that it's going to be 1,000. That's just the current number plus the 200 beds that are at 99 St. Philip. We did go before BAR earlier this summer for the demolition permit for the YWCA building, the one-story brick building.
We have a limited amount of time. If the College of Charleston wants to make a presentation to the commission, they can do so in writing as the other group has done.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, I think that I do think
Mr. Hacker has had an opportunity to express himself earlier. This is a detailed presentation he's making at this point. If he wants to make a detailed presentation, the space at this point.
With all due respect, we have not cut anyone else off with time. And I know Paul Patrick will be considerate of us. So if we would let him finish, I think it's just a respectful thing to do.
All I was going to say is there was a demolition permit issued for the YWCA in June by the BAR.
Thank you, Paul. Maybe we'll let you keep your seat.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as commissioners, we have the possibility of taking action and of not taking action, of following our, like the Reconciliation Commission, considering this, thinking that we're going to do something, but and not do anything. But then, as Dale has suggested as well too, there is a possibility of putting some sort of resolution or motion forward. So what's your pleasure?
I think this requires more study, and a slowing down of time here. We've known this information since 2021. You bought the property with full knowledge that there is a burial site there. And it could create precedent that the city really needs to think about very, very carefully. There are burial sites, as we all know, all over the city and beyond. And whatever happens here will set some kind of approach. So I agree with you, Mr. Chairman, that the Reconciliation Committee and this committee should probably get together, since we are both commissions of the city, and discuss this more thoroughly and get greater knowledge. I'm not quite sure what the BAR's role would have been in all of this, even though they gave approval for the demolition. I don't know, I was not at those meetings to know whether or not this was brought up at those meetings. But this has to be discussed thoroughly. We do not want a surprise just like we had at the Gilliard. And the opportunity for research, the College of Charleston is an educational institution. The opportunity for research is unfathomable. What we could learn. That's my 2 cents.
So
I would agree, Mr. Chairman, that we're at a point where we're asking more questions than we're answering. And we need to be very thorough about this and look at it from the point of view of opportunities for educational growth, for cultural growth, for political maturation, and for a strengthening of the moral fiber, I think, of an ethical fiber of what we do in this city regarding burial grounds and consecrated places. So I would agree that we need to collect more information from all sides on this issue and welcome any presentations, particularly in writing, so they can be thoroughly considered before the commission takes action. But I do believe we should take action to advise City Hall on this point. Thank you. On this question.
Okay, good. Thank you, Wilmot. So I do think that maybe there's one way we can have our cake and eat it too, is if an action we can take is that we can, every time we have a meeting, we can request, if there is more information, we can try to put this on the agenda of every meeting, and then perhaps ask again, everyone that's already here as well, if they have a presentation to make. I mean, I think, again, I hear that we need to learn more, but I also want to structure it somehow as to how we can learn more. So if we just make that, and again, and forgive me if we can just make that as a motion, that we want to study this further and we will do this at further meetings. I think if someone would want to make that motion, we could vote on that. Or do you think it's necessary? All right. I assume he'll be back. We do have a quorum. We still have a quorum. So again, just wanted to make sure, again, so, and here, so, okay.
You're gonna have to help me construct it.
Okay, or Dale, basically, I think the motion would be is that we thank everyone for coming here. We understand the gravity of the situation. We think it is a significant issue for the city and the college and the community to discuss. And we intend to do this as often as possible at our subsequent meetings.
So to have a joint meeting with the Reconciliation Committee.
Right. So that is a motion in front of us. Right. Is there anyone
Mr. Chairman, I believe we all know that these are essentially public meetings, but they're not advertised in the sense of topics. And in my view of things, especially if this is going to be a joint meeting of two commissions, that this one in some way could be advertised as being available to the public other than just YouTube. And I don't know from the clerk's point of view as to whether this would be the facility to do that or not. But that's my view of it.
We do advertise all meetings as publicly available to attend. Whether or not there's public input, that depends on the particular meeting and of course at the chair's discretion. Furthermore, all topics are listed on the agendas, which are posted at least 24 hours in advance of the meeting, usually the week prior. That's all I have about that.
So it is done, and you obviously see that, when the public is aroused, the public, we have had many people here at other times as well too. So point taken, but I still think we have that. Does someone want to, that text that Angela and I cobbled together, does someone want to make that as a motion? That we see how important this is, we want to continue doing it, and that and it's advisable to meet with the Committee on Reconciliation as well. Yes, so.
That's my motion.
Okay, second? Any more discussion? Any discussion? Call the question. Those in favor say aye, raise their hand. Thank you all. So I do think the next item, the next item is miscellaneous business. You're not, I'm not sure we have any miscellaneous business. Y'all are not required to attend. We thank you for your attendance and look forward to you coming back again in the future. So is there any other miscellaneous business among this commission? Dale?
Mr.
Thank you
Chairman,
all for coming.
referring back to the minutes, I would see it as being unfinished business, and I just need to find it now. The matter of item D in the minutes, the question came up when we were discussing the Medal of Honor plaque dedication on Marion Square.
Right.
I pointed out that there was physically no room to add the date. And I've talked to the Chief Petty Officer who's handling this for us, and he says that we can make a second plaque and attach it directly and immediately next to the bigger plaque, and it will have the date on it. So that resolves that. I'd also like to add that I will see to it that you as chairman receive an invitation to the dedication of that Medal of Honor Society plaque, and I would ask that either you or the clerk distribute it to members of this commission as a personal invitation to attend on the 17th of October at Marion Square.
Okay, thank you, Dale. Thank that for information.
Yes.
Anything else under miscellaneous? Hearing nothing else, is there a motion that we adjourn this meeting? Second, no discussion? Okay, thank you all for your service. Thank you all for being here.
How do you turn it off?